So this is the iPhone 16 Pro Max, and today it's going to face off against the iPhone 15 Pro Max of last year in the speed test comparison to help you figure out how much better it really is in your day-to-day performance. So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology. Let's go ahead and begin this speed test with a boot up in 3, 2, go, and see which one can get there first. Now, the iPhone 16 Pro Max on the left does have an Apple A18 Pro chip, and that is rocking 8 gigabytes of RAM with a 6-core GPU. The iPhone 15 Pro Max on the right does have an Apple A17 Pro chip, and it does have 8 gigabytes of RAM, also has a 6-core GPU. So you've seen in a surprising turn of events already, the iPhone 15 Pro Max actually booted up first over the 16 Pro Max. And as you can see, I don't know if you noticed, but if you look closely, the 16 Pro Max does have slightly reduced bezels. It's definitely a little bit noticeable. It's slightly bigger display because of that. And it does feel a little bit taller, especially when you put a case on. From the back though, most people probably wouldn't even notice a difference between these two. So when it comes to Face ID and biometrics, you'll see right here that we do look at this device and it goes right in very fast, as you would expect. I mean, this is a modern iPhone. What else is there to expect? But it's no real difference from last year. And I'll showcase to you this here. So watch this. See, the Face Unlock is exactly the same. And also both of these have really good angles as well. So you can like look at them on different weird angles and they both respond very well. One area I found these not to respond very well is super late at night and very, very dark situations. And if you got some headphones on with your glasses on, sometimes that can cause an issue if it doesn't recognize like sunglasses or something like that. Sometimes those things happen, but not very frequently. This is going to be on the official version. And if you buy a 16 Pro or Pro Max, there was an update right out of the box. So do keep that in mind. If I go over here to this one, you're going to see we're also on iOS 18 on the right. Now, this is not the betas. As you can see, betas are off. These are the official versions of both the software on both of these. And taking a look at the general software, you're going to see no major issues whatsoever for this device. This is not going to happen on a phone at this price point. However, at first, I did notice some stutters when I first got my 15 Pro Max last year. Not anything serious, like a couple app crashes here and there. Bugs were fixed pretty quickly though. That doesn't really happen so far on the iPhone 16 Pro Max. The iPhone 16 Pro Max did get a little bit toasty under my initial setup, but it since hasn't got really toasty at all. And you'll see pretty nice new control center on both of them. You're just gonna find zero issues with general day-to-day performance there for the iPhone 16 Pro Max. But the same is also holding true here on the 15 Pro Max. So if you buy this phone now, control center is smooth. iOS 18 is buttery smooth, even on the older iPhone 15 Pro Max. All right, so we've arrived at the app test of this video. You'll go ahead and see everything is closed out for both. We're gonna start with the basic row, which is the calendar. And you can see exactly the same. You should notice too also that the iPhone 16 Pro Max looks slightly taller than the 15 Pro Max. And let's go into the clock, and there's a 6.9-inch display on the left. And you're gonna have no issues setting an alarm. I mean, why would you? Again, some of these apps don't even really have any issues on any phone, but even the calculator looks a little bigger on the screen. I mean, it's small. Some people say it's like a millimeter upgrade, but it's something. Let's go over here to weather. And you'll see that was maybe slightly faster on the left. Could have been a difference in my finger. Let's go ahead and click this. Let's go into Apple News. You can see that was faster for the right. And we'll go over here to iPhone. And unlike before, I can also see this taller and a little bit wider screen here on the left. Unlike before, you can't just say, oh, it's the same phone. Well, it's not exactly the same because it's 0.2 inches larger. It also has its own dedicated camera button, which we'll take a look at later. Let's go into App Store and you'll see, I think that was the left. I could be wrong. Let's go into Games. That was the left. And we're going to scroll down, go to Apps. That was the left. And we'll click, let's scroll down. How about we go into Streaks? And you could see probably faster on the left there. Let's go into Instagram on both. 3, 2, and go. And you'll see, I think that was faster for the 15 Pro Max. Let's go over here. And don't take it too seriously. If I miss an app or I miscall something, just call me out on it. Just say, nah, bro, it was the other one. Let's go into X, formerly known as Twitter. That was first on the iPhone 16 Pro Max. We'll go over to profile. And you could see during scrolling, it also has that same feel when going through. Let's go into, how about we go into YouTube? All right, so let's go into YouTube here. And we're gonna go into the trending tab. I know that wasn't fair because they were loading different things. So let's just go into trending tab here. We'll check this out. You'll see, I think that was the right. Let's take a look at another tab here. And let's go into shopping. Pretty similar. And then even scrolling here, let me go ahead and go back here. We'll go to look at another one. How about sports? Even when scrolling through, not any difference really. So, I mean, what would you expect year over year upgrade? You're going to expect a huge scrolling difference? I don't. Let's go into Amazon. And you'll see Amazon first on the left by a hair. Let's go into the eBay. And you'll see faster on the left. Scrolling through shows a similar bounce effect, the same thing. Let's go into Groupon. And that's faster for the 16 Pro Max. It's just it had a little pop-up. We'll go into retail. And you'll see that's going to the 16 Pro Max. But where it really might count is coming up shortly here in the games. Best Buy loading a little snappier on the left. So I am seeing a little bit of a jump. It's like a tiny incremental speed boost here to the iPhone 16 Pro Max. Let's go into Jetpack Joyride. Let's see if it can really pull ahead in the games. I don't expect it. They both have a game mode, but it is possible here for it to pull ahead. So let's swipe up out of there. And let's go into Subway Surfers now. And we'll see what happens here. And it looks like we're getting a win there on the left. It was a very, very small difference there. So in basic casual games, both can run pretty good. Real Racing really pulled ahead on the iPhone 16 Pro Max against my S24 Ultra, but will it do so against the iPhone 15 Pro Max? I don't know. It looks like that Porsche is a little bit ahead there on the left. And yes, launching Real Racing very fast there on the iPhone 16 Pro Max. And you'll see definitely a little faster there. So we're not going to continue into the race. I just wanted to show how quick we can get into that game. Let's go into Dead Trigger 2. And we'll take a look here. Game mode appears. I think that was the 15 Pro Max. So you can see some games might launch first here on the right. But again, stretching the bezel's taller display, I'll probably enjoy the games even more on the 16 Pro Max. Let's go into Temple Run 2. And you'll see it's looking like we're getting a faster load there on the left. So yeah, Apple has definitely boosted the speed a little bit for 16 Pro Max. Even if it's a small amount, they definitely did. I think they could have went even more if they would have went to an M series chip and combined it with 12 to 16 gigabytes of RAM. But they got to save something for the future. So I guess that's why. Let's go into Free Fire and we'll see what happens here. Now this does kind of have the same account, so sometimes it doesn't let me go in. We'll just see which one can get there first though. And you can see that was about the same. It's just giving me that little error because they do have, it'll like close this one. If I hit OK over here, tap to begin, it'll probably close that side. Yeah, because it's the same account, but definitely that was pretty much neck and neck. All right, so unfortunately I can't go directly into PUBG because it blocks me for having similar logged in iPhone. So let me go ahead and just time it here and see which one can do it faster. And we'll just time the other one and see which one can launch faster. So you'll see we're at about 6 seconds here. We're about 6 seconds. We'll hit guest. And again, unscientific, but this should give us a general idea here. And we were in at about 15 seconds. If I was to skip the ads, about 18. So 15 to 18 seconds. Let's see if the iPhone 15 Pro Max pulls off that same time. So let's go ahead now and take a look at that. And we'll go in 3, 2, go. So we're looking at about 15 to 18 seconds here for the iPhone 15 Pro Max. And you'll see we're checking for updates. Once again, I'll hit guest. And this should load. Okay, this one is definitely going slower. You can see, even with my mistaps, if I give it a couple of seconds, 20 to 23. So this was a good few seconds behind of the iPhone 16 Pro Max in PUBG. Even if I was a little off with my finger taps or whatever, you've seen it still took longer. Like bottom line, it takes longer to load PUBG on the iPhone 15 Pro Max, and there's the times right there. If you want to see, those were the times that I pulled out. I did pause a second to go ahead and kind of make it equal when tapping away, Xing out those little pop-ups though. All right, guys, so let's go into speed test net here, and we'll see what happens here. I think that was the left. I'm going to iMovie, giving us about the same performance there. We're going to render later, so stay tuned. Geekbench 6 was optimized for the 15 Pro Max, so it loads faster. If you take a look here too, you'll see that the chip on the 16 Pro Max is barely higher in the clock speed, a little bit, but at least it's over 4 gigahertz now, and they have the same RAM, which I'm not happy about, but it is what it is. Let's go into 3D Mark, and about the same. So this entire speed test, what it showed me, or this app test of where we launching apps here, showed me that in day-to-day app performance, it's the games that are ahead here for the iPhone 16 Pro Max. Are you gaming on your phone? Are you going to render out video? If you're doing that pro level stuff, this one definitely has a slight boost over the 15 Pro Max, but it's nothing life-changing. It's definitely not going to really enhance anything in the day-to-day too much. But it is the bleeding edge and the fastest Apple is putting out right now on a phone, and it's definitely noticeable. All right, so let's take a look at the RAM management here, and we'll just see how smooth this does this. 8 gigabytes of RAM. You can see buttery smooth animations on here, and there's no difference between this and some of the older phones. Although on this huge display with this fast processor, this phone just feels liquid day to day. So you're paying a big price, but you're getting your money's worth in performance anytime you buy a max level iPhone. You're definitely getting max performance for sure. So I really like how that looked. Does the iPhone 15 Pro Max give me the same look and feel? And generally, it definitely does. I'm definitely liking the newer, bigger display, but this is still giving me that same level of performance. So if you have a 15 Pro Max or you plan on buying one now, don't fret, don't be too concerned. Your phone is fine, and it's fine for years to come. As you can see, even with the 8 gigs of RAM, no major updates to the RAM department, and the 16 Pro Max means you're going to get about the same level of performance here and relaunches. Also, you can't split screen on either of these phones, so there's no like real advantage to the 16 Pro Max in that area either. Here's our final Geekbench scores. You can see 3143 on the single core, 7659 on that multi-core score. As you can see, this is scoring better than the 15 Pro Max, 14 Pro, 14 Pro Max, and even better than the M2 iPad Pro. You'll see over here 2737 on that single core, which is not massively lower than the iPhone 16 Pro Max, but it's about 800 points better on the multi-core score. So when you push the phone, I do think on the left, the iPhone 16 Pro Max is really going to give you that extra boost if you really need it. Where it will shine the most is if you render out a video or you play graphically intensive games. So definitely it's something, if you care a lot about the performance, you'll definitely quite like that, I would say, for the 16 Pro Max. All right, so here are the final scores, and for some reason, I don't know why the iPhone 15 Pro Max is so dim. As you can see, it's not giving me a good range of brightness here. So I haven't really seen that often. I don't know if this is iOS 18 related, but that's annoying. Anyway, 3881 on the Wildlife Extreme, 3374 on the Wildlife Extreme on the right. So a 3 FPS improvement there in the Wildlife 3D Mark. You'll see it scores better than 86% of devices, and this one 74% of devices. So the overall score difference is a good amount. You can see 12% there, but nothing drastic. But I don't know if the 15 Pro Max is getting a little too warm or something, but it's definitely auto-dimmed. Not a fan of that whatsoever. But definitely the wind goes through. All right, with that being said, since it auto-dimmed, an app test, a relaunch test, 2 benchmarks, let's see where the heat is right now. So the iPhone 16 Pro Max, a little bit warm, around 100 degrees, but we are really pushing it with all those benchmarks. The iPhone 15 Pro Max, 102, 103, going once, going twice. What am I, at the auction yard? You can see right here, 104 max. So yeah, they definitely got this thing. They definitely got this iPhone 15 Pro Max to be cooler and the iPhone 16 Pro Max. So the iPhone 16 Pro Max definitely is a cooler to the touch phone to use. They definitely help that out, but it's still not like super cool to the touch. So if you're looking for even better, I don't think this is the best option either on the market, but it's definitely better than the iPhone 15 Pro Max in that respect. All right, so here we are now in iMovie. You can see scrubbing through the timeline. This is a 4-minute and 13-second clip. You can see it's definitely smooth on both of them. You can go ahead and change different things out if you want to make it even more interesting. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna render this out to see which one can save this faster. All right, so let's go ahead and save the video here and see which one can actually get this done faster and exporting. So I'll go ahead and let this go through and I'll be back when they are done. I'm gonna speed the video up here. And we have a winner by a substantial margin here, the iPhone 16 Pro Max. So you can see, as I mentioned earlier, the 16 Pro Max can perform better here in exporting. Now, one thing I do want to mention is I do think that because this phone auto dim, there might be some throttling going on here, which might explain why this finished so much faster. But that's interesting because what that'll tell you is that the iPhone 16 Pro Max can keep its heat better under control, which means it could sustain its performance more regularly, which to me is a big upgrade if you use your phone heavily. Now, this might be a niche segment of people who do this, but sometimes, you know, I even done this before. Didn't have access to my laptop or I was in bed. I just wanted to quickly export a movie and I was able to export a YouTube video right from my phone. But having this much of a slower performance is a little bit annoying, especially if I was already running a bunch of apps throughout the day. It might give me this type of performance. So the 16 Pro Max is definitely an upgrade here when it comes to the iMovie rendering. And you've seen several seconds later was a 15 Pro Max. Now keep in mind, this phone is still fast at rendering. It's just not faster than the newer iPhone. So this is still a very fast option. This is just better. All right, so let's go ahead and do some web browsing. We're gonna go over here to apple.com on both. Hold on, apple.com, not .p.com. Let's go, 3, 2, go. You can see not a massive difference. Let's learn more about this new 16 Pro and the iPhone 15 Pro Max. Loaded that first. I don't see any real massive differences here on either of these when it comes to browsing. Although that slightly bigger display might be more enjoyable for some. Let's go into Yahoo. We'll click this right here. And you'll see not a massive difference, but because it's bezel to bezel, it is a little bit more enjoyable to consume content on the newer iPhone 16 Pro Max, as you can see right here. It also has a slightly wider display. So you can see this text seems to be a little bit more spread out, just a little bit. But overall, this is a very, very fast phone. Either way you go, both of these are very fast phones to web. All right, so here is the internet Wi-Fi speed test. Now, we do have to be on the same server, so let's go ahead and make sure this one gets on the same server really quickly here. And you'll see we're pulling in right around 600 down, maybe a little bit closer to 5 now. But the Apple iPhone next year is supposed to get Apple's own modem. So we'll see if that speeds things up at all. I don't think it's going to be a drastic speed, but Qualcomm modems are great. But Apple doesn't like to rely on other companies, so they always try to find a way to control everything on their phone, but they just can't do it for everything. So let's take a look here at the iPhone 15 Pro Max and see what this one can pull in. And it looks like we're pulling in similar, 425. Are we a little bit lower? So yeah, we're getting closer to 500 now. So you can't really write this off to the very end of this test and see we're catching up here, pulling in and near a little bit better actually. So the 15 Pro Max pulled in better, but this is like a very minuscule amount. So I do think we're getting very similar performance here when it comes to the modems. I do think the 16 Pro Max has a newer modem, but in terms of this Wi-Fi speed, we're getting nearly the same up and down. And I know it's same network, but same time, I think you're going to pull in really good mobile data, Wi-Fi on both of these. That's probably not a reason to upgrade. That's why I include that test right there. All right, so the iPhone 15 Pro Max got its full brightness back. So it must have cooled down or it must have throttled or something in the background to get its full brightness back, but I didn't restart it and it got its brightness back. Now, one of the last things I want to do is we always do in these videos is launch the camera. So let's go ahead and launch the camera in 3, 2, go. And that one goes to the 15 Pro Max. We'll do it again. 3, 2, go. I think that was a 16 Pro Max. It looked like the 15 Pro Max had it, but then the 16 Pro Max. Let's go in 3, 2, go. Yeah, so you're not really going to get anything drastic in the way of camera upgrades in terms of the actual launch. You're also not getting too much more zoom, both 25 times zoom. But what you are getting is a drastic change in usability with the all-new camera capture button. So that's going to speed up another way to get into the phone. And also you could hold this capacitive down to zoom. For me, I'm not really digging this zoom. I don't see the point in using this when I could just go boop like that. So like for me, that's not really a big deal. But the camera speed on both is going to be very, very good. And of course, the video quality is going to be very, very good. I'm actually recording this entire speed test on an iPhone 15 Pro, which is the camera you see on this phone. So you're actually seeing the quality of this video this whole time has been being shot on the camera of this phone. I haven't put it on the 16 Pro yet because I haven't set that phone up yet, but let me know if you like the quality of this 4K 60 from the iPhone. Thumbs up down below. So wrapping it up, I don't think there's anything else to test with these phones in day-to-day speed. We rendered out a video which showed the iPhone 16 Pro Max had better sustained performance. The 16 Pro Max has improved thermals. It doesn't get as hot. This phone actually auto-dimmed itself during the video, the iPhone 15 Pro Max. This one had better benchmarks and launched what really mattered first, the games. In addition to that, with the reduced bezels, the camera capture button, it's a nice little upgrade. It's not nothing huge. I don't think you have to do this upgrade. This is not a must upgrade year. Definitely not if you had the 15 Pro Max. But the 16 Pro Max is a nice boost from people who had the 14 Pro Max, 13 Pro Max. So let me know if you want to see those speed tests going forward, and let me know what you thought about both of these down below in the comments section of this video. I think they're both awesome. I'll catch you on the next one. Nick here. Be sure to be well, and peace.